I spent about 11 years pretty much isolating myself from people to find and heal myself. These are the two main lessons. Humans have a hard time regulating their emotions on their own. When we spend time with people, we have to get outside of ourselves and oftentimes realize that our issues are not that big of a deal. Thoughts create reality. When we are alone, our thoughts center around ourselves. So we create more of what we think about, leading to a self-centered life. Mental illness can be due to lack of connection. Talking to oneself is often just a misguided attempt to connect. Where there is nobody listening, people start talking to themselves. Have you done that? I certainly have. How to change behaviors that I already know that you need to change, but it feels like you can't. We need to understand that every behavior is there because it gives us something. What does it give us? It either helps us fill a need inside of ourselves, or it helps us bring our entire system back into balance, so that we release some stored energy, or so that it increases the likelihood that we get what we need. For that, it is important to not isolate ourselves and connect with other people. I've made the same mistake myself for many years, where I was basically too proud, too prideful in order to ask for help. I was also brought up in a way where asking for help was not really what we did. I'd never seen anybody of my parents or my grandparents, for that matter, really be open and vulnerable and ask for help for anybody. My grandparents in particular, they didn't even know their neighbors. How crazy is that? They didn't even speak to their neighbors. How crazy is that? But they lived in the same house. It was just a big, huge wall in between the two halves of the house, but like they lived in the same house. How wild is that? Crazy. So what does it give us? It either helps us fill a need inside of ourselves, or it helps us bring our entire system back into balance. Because we all have certain energies, and these energies need to be in balance, these energies need to flow, and these energies also need to be grounded. What are these energies? Well, we, for example, have mental energy. So we all know what that's like when we are physically charged but mentally exhausted. For example, you remember when you were in college, if you went to college, and that you were studying for an exam, or in high school even, when you were mentally preparing for something, and you were sitting all day because you were doing the mental preparation work, right? Writing it out, etc. Then you realize that you are physically charged, but you're mentally exhausted. That's how we know that these two energies are distinct and separate. So in the same way, we can have physical energy that is stored up and we're mentally exhausted. That's also possible. We can also be mentally exhausted, physically exhausted and mentally stored up. That's a behavior, an example when we lay in bed and our thoughts are racing. We are physically completely exhausted and tired. We have to and want to lay down, but our thoughts are still spinning. That means that there's some mental energy that is not grounded. And we need to find a way to ground that and to put these energies, let these energies flow into the right actions and directions in our lives, so that all of our energies are in balance and are going into the right places, into the right actions and directions, and so that we are happy and okay with that, happy and okay with the way that this goes, right? So that we release some stored energy, or so that it increases the likelihood that we get what we need. So changing ourselves or changing our life circumstances, oftentimes, especially in personal development, we believe that changing everything inside of ourselves is going to be the key and the answer to a change in the outside. Now that is true, yet the change also happens the other way around. When we change things in our environment, we trigger an inner change. And here's the real reality of how personal development oftentimes tends to happen in people's processes. Not by what I say is right, but what I oftentimes have observed in people's processes, and you probably will make the same experience. You can tell me if that's true or not. That you realize that the clarity and the cleanliness on the outside is always a reflection of the clarity and the cleanliness inside and within you. So these two go together. You clean up inside of you a little bit, you do journaling, you get things right, you get things in order, you make the decisions, you resolve things, and then you change your life circumstances and you clean up, you get new systems in place for food, for nutrition, for people that you spend time with, where you go, the ways that you do, how you spend your time, the energy, what do you do for work, how you organize your thoughts and your files and your passwords and all of these things that are necessary for your systems to run. Your digital systems as well as the systems in your life that you have around you. You get this done and then you go back into your inner world, inside of you, and clean up some more, and that triggers change on the outside. Then you go on the outside and you clean up some more, and that triggers changes on the inside. That's why I'm a big fan of not overthinking it, not making it a plan, but starting with where you are right now. When I started with this massive cleanup process that I had to do, now I was starting 9 years earlier, but this was really when I said, okay, now I'm going to clean up all of the rest of it. I started by cleaning the floor right here, because it was all greasy, because I was running around like an idiot with bare feet that were all like dirty and greasy. And those where the tiles connect, the paste that the tiler puts in, that was all greasy. So I started cleaning that up, and that was the first place. So changing ourselves or changing our life circumstances, oftentimes these two, they go together. So some studies say that we think 6,000 thoughts per day, and others say it's 35,000, whatever it is. Don't believe they run out. Because how many of us go to bed with an empty mind? Not a lot of us. So there's no scarcity of thought. And thought also seems to be that we are just receiving frequencies, that we're receiving energies, and it's being verbalized inside of our head. It's basically translated. You can think of it as, I don't really have the knowledge about electric circuits that much, but it's got to be translated, right? That sometimes when you go to a different country, you have these adapters that translate that so you don't fry your machine. In the same way, the frequencies are being translated so that you receive it. So thoughts seem to be arising from up to here, where you receive them based on the level of frequency that you are vibrating at, and also from the inside. Oftentimes thoughts come and rise up in your mind in order to tell you something. I believe thoughts are pointers. They are pointing you towards something. They could either be, and here's what's very, very interesting, they are rarely literal. They're oftentimes symbolic, just like dreams are. Dreams are often not literal, but they can tell you a lot about yourself if you learn how to listen to that. Because the language of life oftentimes is symbolic, yet very down to earth and very practical. What can be more practical than life itself, right? So life speaks in very symbolic, abstract language oftentimes, but tells us very down to earth lessons in this abstract way. But life doesn't speak to us in this way. Rarely do we have the voice like Saul when he got knocked off the horse and he receives the voice of God clearly. Rarely does that happen to us, where life speaks to us literally like that. That would also be too easy. That would be too easy. If you go through life and like God would tell you, it's like you would be bored as well, because you felt like you were being, basically like a helicopter god, like a helicopter parent. That's not great, is it? So you wanted, your father lets you go and play and figure things out on your own, but he does speak to you, but in symbolic ways. That's how life works. And so exactly, you have written that. So not a lot of, but for most of us, it is constant chattering. So they don't run out because the mind is still there. And why do they run out? I believe they run out because we run out of time. What are you doing with your 6,000 thoughts a day, and where do they go? Yeah, exactly, that's right. Do they go in the directions, and are they focused on advancing your life forward and resolving what is holding you back from living the life of your dreams? Thoughts, yeah, exactly. And so, where do the thoughts go? And here's what's interesting. Yes, we can control our circumstances. Oftentimes in personal development, it is said focus on what's within your control. But the reality of most people's life experience is that they don't feel in control at all, because they know what they should be doing. Nobody in 2025 who has been on Instagram for at least a year or two and has the desire to change and follows the personal development pages doesn't know what to do. You know exactly what to do. You got to get up early in the morning, you got to have some healthy breakfast or fast, but certainly don't eat crap, certainly don't sleep in, certainly don't snooze away. Take a cold shower or just take a shower at all, and start doing work that matters, right? Start doing creating. But a lot of people can't get there because they feel, they don't go to bed on time, and some of them can't sleep. You can't get out of bed in the morning. Some people are just hurting. Some people have like physical pain that's holding them back. Most entrepreneurs don't. And then they become a little bit cocky sometimes. Because it's good to be reminded oftentimes that a lot of people deal with things that you don't even have to deal with. Isolation is another thing where oftentimes see, a lot of entrepreneur influencers who have, a bit of a combative and cocky attitude, which is helpful for some people, need to receive it in this way. But they do things right. They really do things right. And they're around people all the time. And they've set themselves up a system with friends. They live together in a house. They, work together. They have co-shared office space. They go to work and they have their team. They're with people for a certain amount of time, hours of the day. And they don't realize the impact that isolation actually has on your life. How it truly affects your mood. It affects your regulation, your emotional regulation capacities. So the way that you are able to regulate your emotions on your own, it's much harder. So you realize that as you are more and more isolated, as more and more days and weeks go by without actually seeing anybody or just too little, and just it kind of seeps in this feeling of isolation. You feel like that you're sleeping more, that you can't get out of bed in the morning, that you that you need more rest during the day, that you start eating slightly too much and a little bit of the unhealthy things, just slightly in the beginning, but all of these things, they tend to compound, don't they? Yes, they do. And so that's what happens in isolation. You start talking to yourself in your head, blaming other people, telling yourself stories more, instead of actually creative thoughts, goal-oriented thoughts. You're more into thoughts that's just descriptive. And descriptive is unproductive because every thought is creative by nature. And if you're just describing what you see to yourself in your head, then you're just creating more of that. What you want to be doing, you want to describe to yourself how you want it to be, not what you perceive, how you want it to perceive. Or just take action. But a lot of people don't. They just look around in their place and tell themselves stories, right? So thoughts are pointers. They point towards and in the phenomenon. Sometimes it can be that the energy needs to be released and then activates, manifests scenario which gets in connection with that energy. Interesting. So what I mean by that is that thoughts are pointers. Thoughts are pointing us into where we need to look at. Oftentimes thoughts come up, and as I said, they are rarely literal. They're oftentimes symbolic or parabolic in that sense, that they may lead us to manifest certain behaviors so that a certain energy is being released. That's how thought can be very tricky. Oftentimes people, consult with me and they bring up behaviors and they don't quite understand these dynamics yet of why that happens. Look, we all have certain needs, and the needs we meet through behaviors. And if we don't allow ourselves to find good behaviors to meet our needs, we will invariably manifest unhealthy behaviors, even if we don't want to do this. And this is where the thoughts come in, and this is where the discipline comes in. That's why I said thoughts are pointers. When you, for example, utilize self-directed anger in order to release aggression or release tension in your body, which are separate, right? One need that anger can meet is actually just the very physical release of tension in your body that we all need to do. Like animals, you see when they're being chased by a lion, they're shaking. And if they're not, then they're not tense. But ourselves, we are oftentimes chased by the ghosts of insecurities inside of our minds of feeling not enough whenever we turn our phone off and go off Instagram, whenever we've had enough. Right? And these images, they follow us. They hunt us like ghosts of insecurities. And so then our thoughts point us into the direction of doing behaviors, for example, that give us the anger release that we have of being in constant tension. Do you see this right now? So for example, you have the habit of scrolling on Instagram and feeling insecure. Alright, so that's also a pointer in itself that points you towards the deeper insecurities that you have. And some of them are very natural, because if you're really not producing at the level that you want to, you really are worth less than other individuals on one scale of the measurement, right? You can have value and you can be worth in different ways, but if it's just, value to society, economic production, then yeah, there is then the case to really be insecure about, actually, if it's really not sufficient, right? But there's also then, so some of that feeling insecure can really be in just a wake-up moment of like, okay, others are doing much better than me, maybe I really should step it up, and probably you really should. That can be a very empowering thing. And especially if you follow the right channel, it's actually very constructive, what you can find. But it depends on you. It's a reflection of your mind. It's a reflection of your own psyche, the algorithm. You train it in the way that what you let in your mind, what you attract energetically. Right, what your attention is being attracted towards. Very interesting. Another part of that is that it really does lead you towards your deeper wounds and your deeper insecurities in order for an attempt to be healed, right? So your attention is being drawn there, is being pulled there, because it is energetically attractive to you, because there's something inside of you that looks for healing. So if you're feeling insecure when you're watching Instagram, part of that is because there really could be a reason to be insecure, as I said, like some down-to-earth and grounded and realistic insecurity, and the other one is made-up insecurity in that way. All right, cool. So thoughts are pointers, and they can also point you towards, so that was the example that I was giving. So let's say that makes you build up tension in your body, and this tension needs to be released, and you don't have adequate means to release that tension through sports, exercise, making love, stretching yourself, singing, utilizing your voice, doing yoga, cycling, bicycle, driving home from work, like riding home from work on a bicycle instead of your car, whatever it might be. You don't have adequate means, go for a swim in order to do that. Rough and tumble, play with your kids, that also de-stresses you in that way. Playing pickleball or tennis, or like you get what I'm saying, right? Wrestling, massive pseudo fighters. Yeah, anyway, so if you don't have adequate means to release that stress and that tension, it builds up. And then if you don't have planned and made the routine in your daily life so that your tension is being de-stressed, getting out of your body, you will invariably find unhealthy means to get rid of that tension in your body. And so with that, some certain thoughts can come in that say, just one piece of cake. Just another piece of cake. Come, I was doing so well. I haven't had one in like 8 days already. You start counting the days. And it's like, well, I can't eat the full cake because it's like 9:30 p.m. But I can have a little slice. I really deserve this right now. I actually said I didn't want to, but like, come on, why not? And it's a different cake after all. It's like, it's not the same. It's not really that bad, is it? Like just half a cake. And then you're there and then half a cake turns like, half a piece turns into half a cake. Right, or a quarter of a cake, or 3 pieces, whatever, right? And then you have this hateful anger towards yourself, and you're swearing at yourself, you're slapping your own face, or you're like fucking hitting something, or punching a hole in the wall, whatever you do. And that then grounds this tension. Or you're like all lost in your mind, you're like, I can't believe I've done this again, oh my god, and you go around the block, or up and down in your house, in your aisle, in your alley, hallway, like a hawk in the hallway. And that also releases the tension. But it's like these thoughts are pointers. They come in order to evoke this behavior that gives you the payoff and the benefit of actually having this tension released. That's where these thoughts come in. And that's how we need to see this, how we need to decode that. Right? If you don't give yourself the experience of actually grounding your tension before that, you will invariably have some certain means of doing that in unhealthy ways. So in healing work, it seems so that the insecurities, I cannot believe I'm still farting on camera, man. Do I want to be a professional or do I not? But I'm like so in the focus, I didn't even catch that. Crazy. Well, people probably wouldn't have catched it at all until I said it. Well, healing work. It seems to be so that insecurities come up in moments of being unconscious, although this unconscious fear manifests moments where we go unconscious, period, while we eat, while we talk to people, while we see movement, while we hear music. 3 common childhood dynamics that affect us as adults. Role reversal. When a child needed to be the caretaker of a parent, they pick partners that are broken. They unconsciously look for people and things to fix. Exactly. Emotionally unavailable parent. Believing people will always leave, pushing people away, being dependent on other people although not wanting to. There's also the tendency to isolate them. Emotionally unpredictable parents, second guessing oneself, anticipating the worst outcomes in life. I dropped out of college and used my college funds to buy myself 10,000 hours of alone time instead. Here's what I've learned. You can find who you are and you can decide who you want to be. Success is the result of habits which compound massively over time. There are only a few things you can get exceptional at in your lifetime. Most people are suffering in silence. It's all they know and they don't even know why they suffer. How to enhance decision-making skills. Less inner conflicts make for more decision-making skills. Strategies that you have never heard before. Decision-making takes energy. In order to make better decisions, only focus on raising the energy that you have so that you have more energy at my disposal when making decisions. Letting go of inner conflicts. Understanding self-sabotage. Volume 7.5K. Self-sabotage happens when there are 2 contradicting motivations inside of a person. Hook. Why does self-sabotage happen to some people? Because there are 2 contradicting motivations inside of a person. Why is it that self-sabotage ruins some people's lives and others can't understand it? Because there are 2 contradicting motivations inside of a person. How would you explain self-sabotage? How would you explain that? Some people sabotage their success. How do you explain that? One wants better relationships, another wants peace in relationships and avoid hard conversations. One wants to be loved because lack of love would mean death and undeservingness. One wants to be unique and special. One wants to be excitement and novelty. Another wants sameness and predictability, especially when love is on the line or one of the basic human needs. All behavior meets human needs, of which there are only a few. The needs that the self-sabotage part, as the part that wants the protection is meeting, probably are either being special, being loved, or being secure. Security, being special, and being loved are important human needs that everybody needs to meet. When self-sabotage takes place, we don't do that consciously. It happens unconsciously rather. When it happens, then likely unconscious fears are at play that create the self-sabotage. Self-sabotage means that we want one thing, but then when it seems likely, we pull back. And what does that mean? Self-sabotage does not happen when we don't believe it is possible. The effects of inner blockages are that you have trouble expressing yourself, that you have trouble doing the things that you need to do in order to succeed. The effects of energetic blockages are, when you have a problem in your life, oftentimes it is not the issue that you are thinking of that is the real issue. People tend to look at symptoms and overlook the root cause of it. So that is why I'm offering this free school community. So that people like you have a place where they can grow, an environment where they can grow in. I am making this community for you so that you can have the access to the interventions that you need. I specialize in all things inner blockages. If you feel blocked inside of you and you inhibit it and don't know where this is coming from, this is the place for you. Exactly. This is a great piece of content. So we claim that, yes. I specialize in all things inner blockages. If you feel blocked inside of you and inhibited and you don't know where this is coming from, this is the place for you. When you don't know what it is inside of you that is holding you back from doing what you want to be doing in your life and sense that there is a calling right now to wake up and do. To wake up or be left behind, this is the place for you. When you feel that there's anything inside of you that is hindering you from expressing your true self the way that you truly want to express yourself. Whatever we think about is what we attract into our lives. It works in quite a magical and miraculous way. We focus on that and we tend to take on the energy of what we focus on. We get similar insights, similar to the vibration of the thought that we tend to focus on. Dynamics of attracting who we don't want to be. There's an intervention with a woman called Suki that Tony Robbins did in Fiji. He used this intervention in order to exemplify, great word, that goes into my vocabulary. Exemplified. Here we got it right next to it, right? Vocabulary, man. Exemplify. 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 All right. He uses this intervention in order to exemplify how disowned parts of ourselves can manifest in a partner and cause trouble for ourselves. When we grew up and we were rewarded or overtly or covertly punished for traits, actions, and ways of being. Traits, actions, ways of being. YouTube sheet. YouTube idea sheet. This is good. Traits, actions, ways of being. Behaviors, mannerisms, actions. Habits, environment, posture. How we carry ourselves. Exactly. How we never must be in the past are the disowned parts. These parts, as Tony explains in this intervention, are what we like in others and also dislike in others at the same time. I can relate to that because there was a time in my life where I thought it would be beneficial to kick beggars in the face in order to teach them a lesson and make them work instead of beg. Never done that, but that was my attitude. I was like thinking that would be the right way. I'm like, have they not have enough pain in life for them to fucking move? It's like, do they really need to be broke? Are they too comfortable? It's like, do they need a broken chin bone for them to fucking wake up? I was thinking like that. But I was just disowning the own beggar inside of me because I wasn't making money at that point. And I was hating myself for it. And that anger got subverted into the externalization of the part of myself and the aspects and the behaviors in myself that I didn't want. Because basically I was just living off my grandparents' money. And I hated it. But I also was too afraid to actually charge somebody money. So instead of taking the responsibility, I turned the anger towards myself instead of utilizing the anger and the aggression to actually break through that and like make myself get on the phone and call some customers and sell my stuff, my products and my seminars. You see how I'm fucking triggered even right now? Yeah, my fucking goodness. Yeah, utilizing that energy for that. I wanted to kick beggars in the face because I thought that would be the adequate thing to do, the noble way. The nobleman's way of cleaning up the streets of beggars, kicking them in the face until their chin bone breaks. That was obviously a huge delusion, but you see how people, when they just think these thoughts continuously, is my nose bleeding, man? When they just think these thoughts continuously, that they really do that. And I obviously never did that. I really did not. And yeah, crazy. And so I fortunately never acted on these impulses here. I said this again, I left them alone. Sometimes even gave them a little change, but never any words of encouragement. Right. The disowned parts of ourselves we attract in others. We attract them in a partner as qualities that we like, and we admire them in others when they underlying qualities in disguise. In disguise is also a great word that goes into the vocabulary, rich like jewelry. Let's go here. Let us go. Exactly. Exemplify, request for revelation, instantiate, situated, predicated upon, Evince, impropriety, indicate, imbue, inculcate, exasperated. Is something happening here? In disguise, exactly. Bound to, substantive, consequent to, alternating, attenuate. Yes, I'm learning how to speak. We are repelled by these disowned parts because they are too much to deal with for ourselves. So when they are shown to us from the outside, we feel repelled because we try so hard and spend so much time and energy to push these parts down that it is too much to be dealing with more of than what that is shown to us on the outside. Yeah, I said this in the beginning. That's why, well, I think I said this in the previous video, that when you are on the path of getting rich and doing better for yourself, you're usually disowning the inner beggar and the inner poor man, the inner peasant of yourself who just wants to go into the cheap pleasure and just do all of the things that poor people do. Because frankly, I mean, if you could have both, probably most people would choose that. You know, if you could have an easy life and have all of your social needs met all of the time, go drinking and just go have a good time. It's like, if you go on the path of rich, you got to give these things up, at least for a little time. At least you got to be willing to do that, right? So we are repelled by these disowned parts because they are too much for us to deal with in ourselves. So when they are shown to us from the outside, we feel repelled by these people that show these parts to us that are basically a reflection, an exemplification, an energetic manifestation, not an energetic manifestation, but like energetically similar to the parts of ourselves, meaning we see them, we intuit that they are living their life in a way that the parts inside of them suggest that the same parts inside of us are suggesting to us, but we are choosing to not give in, and they do for various reasons. And that's why it's oftentimes a lot of contempt from rich people to poor people, right? Push these parts down so that it is too much to be dealing with more of when that is shown to us on the outside. So there's an intervention with a woman called Suki that Tony did in Fiji. He talks about different parts inside of ourselves, and he uses this intervention to show how we disown parts of ourselves. These disowned parts tend to pull the same thing that we didn't want to see to us unconsciously. Exactly. When we grew up, we were rewarded or overtly or covertly punished for the traits, actions, and ways of being. We tend to attract a partner that parts of ourselves that are disowned. Real script. Have you ever wondered why we seem to keep repeating behavior patterns even if we don't want to? Why is it that we keep attracting the very same thing that we are afraid of? There are energies inside of us, and when we disown or repress a certain energy, we attract it to us on the outside so that the inside gets healed. Why is that we keep repeating behaviors? Why is it that we keep attracting partners with similar qualities? It is because this behavior or quality that the person has is a manifestation of a deeper underlying energy. We hold the same energy inside of ourselves, but it is a disowned part. We attract in others these parts that we have disowned in ourselves. So why do we keep attracting partners with similar energies? New topic. How to get leverage onto a person to change human behavior. Tony Robbins' intervention with the Spurs. Here's what I learned from Tony Robbins working with Spurs and Dennis Rodman. Let me actually check here. Daylight Saving Australia 2025. April 6th. Daylight Saving Europe. March 30th. Wow. So interesting. And yeah, so with that we go forward. Yes, it is true that you can change in the moment, you can make yourself change, but what I'm interested in is what pulls you back in automatically. So one thing is the habit, you go on autopilot back to what you know, but there are deeper things happening that need to be resolved so that the pull is not that strong anymore. Because if you don't recognize the why behind why you are being pulled back, then you don't know the why. Day 5, unpacking how we got from 400k to 3.3 million book deal negotiation story. Exactly. First, know your value. Second, have proof. 3, understand the needs and the wounds so that you can get leverage. 4, utilize opportunities to demonstrate your value. Knowing your value. Believing that you are actually worth it. Ideally, being able to prove that you are worth it from the eyes of somebody else. Needs, making money. The deeper need is significance, showing how he will be. Descriptive versus creative thought. Descriptive versus creative thought. What is the voice in our head that sounds like us? Oftentimes the voice does sound like us, but not always. Sometimes the voice sounds like an advertising jingle. Descriptive thought are, for example, oh, I'm stepping into it. Only two to go in going upstairs. I was like, only 2 to go. Right, when you're like walking up the stairs, in case you do that. What does he look at me like that? Descriptive thought like that are often passive, meaning they happen to you. Non-verbal thoughts are basically reactions. They are reactions to stimuli that in the past created thoughts, and now the pathways are being triggered even without thoughts. This type of, this is what we're gonna make a YouTube video about for sure. What was the other one that was great here? Yeah, this is a great piece of content. I got all of these ideas, man. This is great. Yeah, of attracting who we don't want to be. Exactly. That's going to be a video as well. Easy. Yeah, and so creative thought is active. Non-verbal thoughts are basically reactions. They are reactions to stimuli that in the past created thoughts, and now the pathways are being triggered even without thoughts because we have walked the pathways so often. Our brain has carved these pathways into our nervous system through repeated repetitions. Repeated. Example, repeated words. Alliteration, the type of thinking is much faster and that is often related to intuition. Creative thought is active. It doesn't happen on its own unless you make it happen. This type of thinking is often called speaking into existence because thoughts do manifest when believed, acted upon, and spoken with a lot of repetition over a multi-year time horizon. Descriptive thought is thought that describes what we see, feel, or experience. Creative thought is thought that creates the reality that we want. Most people are not aware that there's something like creative thought. Most people are not aware that they are creating their reality with their thoughts and their inner imaginations. When you put energy of your emotions and thoughts towards, this is what your life will get more of. Energy is attractive and attracting. You tend to attract energy that is similar to the energy that you are holding inside of yourself right now. Descriptive thought is thought that describes what we see, hear, feel, and perceive, like I stepped into the puddle. Now I have to walk with my feet wet. I should remember this item when I go shopping. I really need to make money the following week. I can't believe she said this about me. What's going on here? Why is that not working? Right? These are types of thoughts that people sometimes tend to have. Most thought patterns are found in the realm of descriptive thought, reviewing past emotional experiences, casting forward emotional experiences, preparing what to say, reiterating, or it feels like these thoughts are flying in, what other people have said to me in childhood, reiterating truisms and aphorisms heard in childhood, but negative aphorisms. You can't have everything. Creative thought patterns link together with a discipline to focus on what you need, what you want to feel. Feeling not what you want, not what you feel right now in this moment, but feeling what you want to feel. Not focusing on what is immediate and pulls you in your focus right now in the moment, but focusing on what will bring you forward. Focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. 3 focus shifts and how to implement them. Focus on what you want to feel, not what you are feeling. Focus on where you want to go, not where you are. Focus on what you have, not what you don't have. Focus on what worked, not what didn't work. Focus on actions, not on why past actions didn't work. Focus on gains, not losses. Focus on the past, on what you do have time for, not what you don't have time for. Focus on what you're grateful for, not what is not perfect. Focus on feeling free, not feeling restrained. Focus on the beautiful, not the ugly. Focus on the good, not the bad. Focus on yourself, not other people's problems. Focus on other people, not on your problems. Focus on yourself, not other people's problems. Focus on other people, not your problems. Focus on feeling unlimited, because the only limitations we have are the limitations we create. Focus on what you have, not what you need to get. Focus on what you can give, not what you need to get. Focus on building, not on destroying. Focus on growing, on what is growing, not on what is shrinking. Right? There are two types of thoughts. The distinction is valuable because it will help you create the life of your dreams and understand people on a deeper level. Descriptive thought and creative thought. Descriptive thought is describing to ourselves what we experience now. I'm stepping into the puddle. Now I have to walk with my feet wet. I need to remember getting this item when I go shopping. I really need to make money the following week. I can't believe she said this about me. What's going on here? Creative thought. Not what we are experiencing, but what we want to experience. I am strong and authentic. Love is flowing out of me in avalanches of abundance. I am respected and liked because of my immaculate reputation. I make people laugh and smile. All of the answers and resources are inside of me and within reach. These are great creative thoughts, and they do become true more and more every time you say them with conviction. And the more convicted you are, you drive them so deep in your nervous system, other people will tell you these things back, and then they'll manifest. Here are the lessons in this. Every thought is creative. When we think descriptive thought, we create more of what we describe. When we think creative thought, we also get more of what we describe. Shifting the ratio towards creative thought is the key mental practice to create the lives of our dreams. Great piece of content, man. This is super good. There's a famous intervention of a woman named Beverly who lost 200 pounds despite having nerve damage in her legs. One of the key lessons he gave her was to focus on what you want to experience in life, not what you're currently experiencing. Not to dwell on the past and regret and lower emotions. The reasons for that is that lower emotions attract more of the same. The emotions that we hold inside of ourselves and then thoughts that come with it tend to attract more of the same of what we already had. It is interesting that when people are in imbalance, they gravitate towards the basics of life, selling commodities which everybody uses, metal, steel, wood, mortar, etc. When people are in the mindset of lack and poverty, they don't believe that they can have an abundance of energy, creativity, and capability inside of them. If they did believe that, then it would still take some years for this belief to actualize. Because every immediate reward is detrimental, but long-term gains always involve delaying immediate reward, and they require trust that it is going to work. For people to trust these life mechanisms, it is important to have case studies of people who are just like them and who did these manifestation practices and have gotten the result of what they wanted. So how to manifest the life of your dreams? How to make dreams die? Do you like? How to make dreams die? Yo, man, this is a great piece of content. How to make dreams die. How to make dreams die. This is a great piece of content. YouTube idea sheet where the titles, your content to be modeled. How to make dreams die. This is how to make dreams die. And that also goes into the YouTube idea sheet, does it not? Yes, it does, right? How to make dreams die. Would you strangle a little girl like that? That is one of the questions Tony Robbins asked an obese woman named Beverly who proceeded to lose 200 pounds. What he meant was how she was treating herself. And so the key lesson was focusing on what she wants to experience and not what she is currently experiencing. The focus on the present made her feel bad and in turn comfort herself with food. Food equals feeling. When you feel bad long enough, we invariably start acting badly. When we feel good, we invariably start acting better if we consistently focus on it. So focus on where you want to go, not where you are. There is a famous intervention of a woman named Beverly who lost 200 pounds despite of having nerve damage in her legs. One of the key lessons he gave her was to focus on what you want to experience in life, not what you're currently experiencing. Do not dwell on the past in regret and lower emotions. The reason for that is that the lower emotions attract more of the same. The emotions that we hold inside of ourselves and that thoughts that come with it tend to attract more of the same of what we already have. Exactly. Page 18. That's great. 45 minutes, man. Decent.